Welcome to Rogue Bogues Basketball Series. Thanks for joining us again, myself and Mike Procopioo. Episode 50, Pro. What did you buy me?
World peace.
World peace? Doesn't help me.
No, it doesn't help. It's complete bullshit. I bought you a star off one of those like scam artists online, and I called it World Peace. It's in the northwest sky, so if you want to look at it, just it's a star. It's yours, and it's going for you.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you very much. I'll look out for that.
What the fuck did you get me, asshole?
Box of donuts. They haven't come yet?
Nah, those things won't breathe air for 3 seconds in this house.
No, but yeah, thanks to everyone. We're at episode 50 and we're inching up to 1 million listens. So appreciate everyone's support, especially for the basketball series. This is the main staple that we do weekly. So I know Pro and I appreciate it. We've got some good following now on the call-in app for some Q&A. So be sure to join that and continue to share and join us to ask some questions every now and then. But let's get rolling. Enough of that boring stuff. Team of the week, Pro. I'm going to have to go with the Phoenix Suns again.
Oof.
It was a hard choice this week for both, for good and bad, week and week. But the Suns, look, some good wins. They're on a win streak again. They won 5 straight, 6 straight. I think they're 5 straight right now. And they've beaten, the last week, Toronto, Indiana, Detroit, and San Antonio, and then finished off with a big win versus Dallas. Booker had 48 versus the San Antonio Spurs after the debacle with the mascot. I think the Spurs were trolling him even more, and he dropped 48 on their head. They're just rolling, man. They're a really fun team. I know we didn't give them a lot of respect last year, and they rolled in and just continue. I think we both picked against them every series they were in.
No doubt.
And they rolled all the way to the finals. So a lot of respect. I think they're starting to become, obviously that well-oiled machine of even Aiden's out tonight, Booker's out tomorrow. We're still going to win this game. Like, we're going to win this game. And I've got some good stats later in the useful or useless segment. But yeah, I got to give it to the Phoenix Suns. They've probably been the most consistent over this last week when you look at everything else going on around the league, and had to give them the nod. Pro, who do you have?
My team of the week would be the same, Phoenix Suns. I mean, I watched them against Dallas, and again, like you said, next man up mentality. Those guys are really stepping up. Those guys are really playing, and they're going hard as hell. And that's where I see if a team's really good, Bogues. If they've got one of their top 3 players out, and if they could really step up and ring the bell. And those guys have done that consistently, and I got to give it to them. They competed. They played hard. I was actually going to give it to Indiana, to be honest with you, but they won like 3 out of their last 10. But they beat the Lakers and Golden State back to back. But I'm going to give it to Phoenix. Those guys are playing at another level. A lot of people said like last year was a fluke and get into the finals, and they're really showing that they could beat big time teams in the league consistently. And then when they have major personnel stepping out, they could still step up. I mean, beating Dallas at Dallas without Ayton, at how Dallas has been playing was pretty amazing. And Chris Paul and Booker and Paul and Cameron Johnson and, those guys, the Ayton, when he's healthy, I mean, those guys are really, really stepping it up. They're pretty fun to watch.
They are. And they've got every chance to repeat that performance and maybe go one step further. So as long as they stay injury-free, I think they're really rolling. Team of the week. A team that hasn't had a great week, Pro. Now, this might surprise some people, Pro. This might be controversial. That's what we do here. But I'm going the Golden State Warriors, Pro. I'm going the Golden State Warriors. There wasn't a whole lot of teams, maybe bar Orlando, Detroit of the world, that have had horrible runs. Everyone's kind of been 5-5 or 6-4. The Warriors are 4-6 in their last 10, Pro. I think Clay coming back has given them an energy boost, but it's also made that roster a little clunky now, because there's reports that Jordan Poole's a little frustrated with his role. So you got to coincide that with not having as much freedom to hoist up, good shots, bad shots at times, because you're not, with Clay and Steph out there now, there's not a whole lot of shots. So you're probably more of a role-playing guard when you're out there with those two, right? There's that factor. I think 4-6 is probably complimentary too. They got lucky last night against Houston. It took Steph Curry to hit a buzzer-beating 3, and he looked visibly frustrated last night. I caught a bit of that game. He was just visibly frustrated by the way they were playing. I think it just seemed like, I think the Warriors are they're in that dog days of the season portion of the season that every team goes through, where they're just like, let's just keep rolling and get to the playoffs healthy. And I think teams are sneaking up on them. Like you said, Indiana was a bad loss for them. And I think what else this solidifies to me is how important Draymond Green is. People that know basketball know how important he is to this team. But there's a lot of people that don't. There's a lot of people that pick up a stat sheet and 6 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. Ugh, that's nothing. Why is he even being spoken about with LeBron at times, or, performance-wise? Well, now you see, it's the Rudy Gobert effect, right? He's so important to what they do. And his stats are usually pretty good. He's close to triple-doubles most nights. But it's all the other stuff he does. He gets Clay and Steph open because he knows their movement patterns. He knows what they're doing. He's very good defensively, can switch 1 through 5. So they're my team of the week. It might be a little controversial, Warriors fans. I'm sorry, but I don't think this has been a great week. And look, even the wins they've had haven't been like, wow, they really played well. I think they got lucky with some of those, Pro.
Yeah, I agree. I watch those guys almost every night when they played the last 5 or 6 days, and it seems like they're fucking with the game a little bit. Some possessions you're just like looking at yourself with the shot selection and some of the things they do, the turnovers, some of the plays that they make. And I think you're right. I think dog days is a definite way to put it. I had extensive conversations with Kevin McHale about the 80 Celtics. And I mean, those are great teams. Like right now, Golden State is in a great team. You don't know where Golden State is, even though they're doing really well. You don't know where they're going to be with Clay and Draymond. You obviously think they're going to be really good, but like the Celtics, I mean, the dynasty, just like, Golden State when they had it rolling as well. But like Kevin told me that, hey, there were times where we just messed with the game. We were bored. We were that good in 86 where like there'd be times where, out of the first quarter, down 12, down 13, and then we just sort of have to step it up. Halftime we'd be down, and then we would just be sleepwalking, and then we'd be like, all right, we're going to turn it on. But that was the 86 Celtics. Right now, these guys aren't whole yet. Thompson's not fully healed. Green's battling some stuff. Obviously Steph's doing his deal, but their team's still missing some things, and they can't afford just to shut it off and turn it on when they want until they're really back. And obviously they haven't been together long enough to really do that. And I think that like you got to look at yourself in game and be like, we can't mess with the game. Yeah, I know it's a little boring. It's dog days. It's January. We're looking at All-Star break, where the fuck we're going on vacation and all that stuff. We're looking at all that. We get it, but like you have to finish this thing, and that's what championship teams do. And like you got to look at it and to say like, look, we can't allow ourselves to sort of play down to our competition. When we play Indiana, when we play Houston, we play teams like that, we got to destroy those guys. We got to blow them out. We got to be up 18 after the first quarter and just like up 28 at halftime. And then we could sort of take it easy a little bit. But you just can't sleepwalk through 3.5 quarters and expect just to step it up in the bottom of the fourth and, figure it out. It's, these teams shoot the ball too well. There's playmakers everywhere. Teams could really surprise you, especially if you keep them in games long enough, and you got to be able to kill them. And yeah, the Golden State, in this last week or so haven't been doing that. And they, look, it's, how it's going to be. Those guys will play together, and by the end of the year, everything's going to be great. But this past week, yeah, it's pretty frustrating.
Yeah, I'm not panicking. I'm not panicking with them. Yeah. Like I'm not sitting there saying, "Holy shit, panic stations." I'm just stating the obvious. They haven't had a great week, even though they've won a couple of those games. They've just kind of sleepwalked through this last week, and it's fact. The one positive for me, and this is what I'm going to say, when you've got these opportunities through injury or a starter being out, Kuminga's taken that opportunity well. Like he's had some great games for him, and shown Steve Kerr that he might be able to crack that rotation even with Draymond Green back. So there is a silver lining there, but the Jordan Poole thing is a little frustrating because we were talking about in this pod, months ago, holy shit, when they get Clay back, factored in with the way they're playing, and Jordan Poole's now coming into his own, you probably have to play Poole as a Jordan Clarkson role, probably on this roster with Clay fully healthy. But we thought it'd be a godsend of a roster, but this is what you deal with on NBA rosters. I mean, Jordan Poole's got some frustration on one of the best teams in the league because his shot numbers are going to now dry up, and his role and how much they trust him on offense is going to be diminished because you've got an elite Klay Thompson back healthy, and that's half the stress that you have as a head coach with these kind of things. Were they your team as well? Surely not.
No. I thought about it, though, to be honest. I did sort of think of it at the back of my head, but the New York Knicks, for me, were my team of the week. They lost 3 games, all 3 games this week, all 3 games at home this week. They lost to Charlotte, lost to Minnesota, lost to New Orleans, all at home. And they got to show a little bit more fight than this. I know they're battling a little bit of injury, but like They can't be losing 3 games at home. They're losing right now. They're sort of like in the standings. They're losing things. They're sort of on a down tick. They're right now they're 11, and I don't think they could fall into like Indiana territory or Detroit territory. But they're 7.5 games out. They're only a half game out of 10. But still, like, they can't afford to be losing 3 in a row at home to 3 teams that you can beat. I'm not saying they should go 3-0, but they gotta fight. They gotta fight through this. These are the dog days, like you said, and you gotta be able to compete. And I just didn't see that compete and that fight out of the Knicks like I usually do. Tom Thibodeau usually have those guys ready to go, and they just sort of haven't gotten it done, in my opinion. And losing 3 at home to those opponents,
Can't do
not
that.
the greatest.
Yeah, and what probably I mean by the dog days is like whether you're 30-10 at this point, or whether you're 10-30, there's always a portion of a season where you're kind of punching the clock to an extent, as hard as that is for fans to hear, where you think, we'll be all right. We're Golden State. We've got Steph. We've got Clay. I'll just roll up and I'll kind of be in cruise control mode and let them carry us. And that's when you get stung by some of these younger teams that aren't, some of these teams coming into Golden State winning, like Indiana, they're not probably competing for a playoff spot. They're maybe a play-in if they go on a massive roll, but they're the dog days of the NBA. Every team goes through it. And even talking about the Celtics of old, the 80s Celtics, they go through it. The Lakers, Showtime Lakers went through it. Everyone goes. The only team I've ever been on that didn't go through it was the 73-9 Warriors. I don't think we lost 2 games in a row that season, which is amazing. And that was one team that, because we were chasing that record, right? But most teams, you're going to have a bad couple of weeks, maybe in December and then maybe again in February. The good teams make those. That week is a week, bro. It's not the bad teams. That week turns into what? 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, holy shit, where's All-Star break? And we're 15 games below 500. So every team goes through it. It's just a matter of having the coaching staff, having the system, having the players, having the veterans to be like, okay, like we've sucked. Come on, guys, let's go. It's time to turn it on. And good teams will usually have 2 or 3 weeks combined bad, and the rest is at an elite level. You'll make the playoffs and you have a chance to be in a conference finals and the finals. And that's I still think the Warriors will be somewhere in there, but the Knicks, man, they're just they've been real frustrating. I thought they'd make a bigger jump this season. I really did. I thought they'd just a little bit, maybe 3 or 4 more wins. But they've gone the other way, which you don't really see with a Thibs coach team. This is usually he's one of those coaches that gets improvement year on year. A noticeable improvement. We haven't seen that this season. Julius Randle's hasn't been great. The fans are in his head. He's going back and forward with the home team fans, and then they're tough in New York there, so that doesn't help the situation. And I don't think he's sneaking up on anyone neither, pro anymore. He had a fantastic year last season. I think that pressure and that you're all of a sudden the star of New York, where you're number one on our scouting report. Like, we know who you are. We know we stop you from getting easy buckets. The Knicks are going to struggle to score, and I think that's what we're seeing. So I'll be really following their journey to see if they make a little jump here and try to make a decent seeded playoff push, but it's not looking good. No,
not looking good at all. Not right now. But it's still early. But they don't have any great players in their team. They've got a bunch of good players, solid. They got a great coach as far as getting you prepared to go to battle. But now they're going to have to sort of get tough, and they're going to have to make plays, and they're going to have to really just sort of be efficient, play hard every night, and compete on both ends of the floor.
Agreed. We'll watch that space. All right, this is going to be a long segment, I think. Lakers, bro. Mm-hmm. The Lakers. What an absolute shit show we are seeing. Not only their on-court performance, bro, but the PR pushes from that franchise, the, trying to blame XYZ. We're going to get into that a little bit, but it's been bad. So much so that there was a leak last week going into the Jazz game that Frank Vogel is on the hot seat. He's coaching for his job versus the Jazz, whether it was tomorrow or tonight, whenever the article was written, after a 37-point loss to the Nuggets. That gets leaked. Then it gets leaked that he's being evaluated on a game-by-game basis. This is a coach pro that's won a championship for the Los Angeles Lakers. With albeit, I think they had a good roster. I don't think they were elite roster-wise. I think there was some luck along the lines there, and LeBron had a fantastic year, but I think that roster, I don't think anyone could have coached them to a championship. It wasn't that they weren't Golden State. You know what I'm saying? With KD, Steph, Clay, and Draymond, they still needed to be coached. He's won them a championship. Someone from there is going to leak that he's evaluated on a game-by-game basis at the end of January. I mean, the leaks just continue, so much so that now Westbrook's been thrown into that basket of scapegoating. So I don't know if you saw this leak, but there was a leak that the coaching staff had reportedly emphasized to take away LeVert's right hand, and Westbrook didn't angle him properly. That was the reason he was benched a few games ago. I think it was Indiana, wasn't it? That was the reason why he was benched. So someone in your coaching staff is leaking to the media or somebody to get that to a journalist is absolutely mind-boggling to me. So anyhow, so much so you move on. Now there's war for Westbrook rumors, trade rumors. I scratch my head and I think it's a nothing trade, but we know Wall is with LeBron's agency. So much so I think the best take on all of this was Charles Barkley's pro. And I'll finish this and then you can give me your thoughts. But quote from Barkley, "The Lakers are such wussies." He then went on to say he would have used a different word if he wasn't on television. The way they are throwing Vogel and Westbrook under the bus is really pissing me off. The people up top who put that trash together are running and hiding like cowards, saying, "Oh, it's Frank. Oh, it's Russell. You put them old geezers out there." And then he went on to say, which I think was a very valid point, the best guy on your roster besides LeBron in the last month has been Stanley Johnson. This is in Charles Barkley's opinion. For you to be bringing a guy in off the street and he's now your second best player is just ridiculous. And this is exactly what we said a couple of weeks ago, Pro. We said, I don't know if you remember, I said, why is everyone pointing the fingers at Vogel and Russ? What about Rob Pelinka? He just continues to just quietly hide under the desk while everything around him is on fire. He put this roster together. He made these genius home run attempts with these trades, and it is just a shit show. I think at times coaches need to be fired and need to be moved on, but to do this to a championship winning coach, if he didn't have a championship, I still don't agree with it, but he's won you a fucking ring. To actually say that he's coaching on a game-by-game basis, he's coaching for his life. This is what, I scratch my head, Pro. The fact that the Russell Westbrook, he missed a scout. That's why we benched him. I think everyone's starting to jump ship. The Titanic is sinking and everyone's trying to save themselves, Pro. That's what I'm reading with this.
Bogues, it's unbelievable that owners that have all these corporations and businesses that they run outside of basketball would run a $1 billion side hustle the way that some NBA teams are run. And what happens with the Lakers is they try to, like you said, hit home runs. First of all, there's not a trade, a transaction, a dollar that's spent that's not okayed by LeBron and Clutch. So the Westbrook trade, signing Carmelo, all of this had to be okayed by him and by those guys. It's 100%. But not only that, Bogues, Bus is getting feedback and getting decisions made, not by Pelinka, but by Kurt Rambis and his wife, Linda Rambis. Now, Kurt Rambis was a role player in the 80s, played there for a long time, coached with, was an assistant coach there, coached with Phil Jackson. And he's the one evaluating the coach. He's the one that, hires the coaches, has a big voice in that locker.
Does he have a title there? And that Does he have an official title?
Yeah, he's like an official, he's like a basketball consultant, basketball operations consultant. And Linda is his wife, who's best friends with Jeannie Buss. So, and she, from what I was told, Bogues, is she's doing trade calls with agents. That's what I've heard from a really good, not trade calls with teams, but we're calling agents to try to get things done. See, Jeannie Buss is very, there's a lot of influence with old past Lakers, right? So a few games ago, Magic Johnson, shocker, tweets out, Jeannie Buss, you deserve better than this. So, of course, she gets all flustered and then decides to, of course, instead of doing what most championship teams do and say, you know what, we're okay, we're going to steer the ship however we're going to steer it, they start doing all this stuff. Kurt Rambis demands to be in coaching meetings with Vogel and his staff. Linda Rambis is doing her thing. Everybody's trying to throw everybody under the bus. Look, this team was put together pretty poorly. Westbrook's a good player, right? But it's just a bad fit with LeBron. That's it. It's got nothing to do with him personally.
Westbrook's the number one guy. It is what it is. Can you win with him or not? Who knows? But every team he's been on, for him to have maximum impact, the usage has gone through Russ. So we said this from the start. How the hell are you putting him next to LeBron, who is a number one usage guy, whether he's 50 years old or 20, that loves to have guys that can play off him to shoot the three ball, you're basically putting another guy that's similar to him next to him. Einstein. You didn't have to be Einstein to work that shit out. Like it was blatantly obvious. How are you gonna share the ball usage wise between Russ and LeBron? And then you got Davis to factor in there as well.
And don't forget, Bogues, that they could have made a trade for Kyle Lowry in the offseason, but they held it up because of Taylor Horton Tucker, which ironically is a Clutch client. So, they were saying that he's untradeable, he's untouchable. And I'm sitting there watching clip after clip after clip after clip. And I'm saying, look, I don't get what people are seeing in this kid where he's untouchable. If you have trades, that you could make, and get him to get Kyle Lowry, which would be I'm not a huge Kyle Lowry fan, but he's a lot better fit than Russ because he doesn't need the ball like that where he's a scorer and he could shoot it a little bit better and he could play, he could play that style a little bit better with LeBron. So you do that, first of all, it all starts with a couple of things. First of all, they gave away Zubac from Mike Muscala a couple of years ago. I thought that was a huge,
that was the deal ever, man.
To me, that wasn't a smart deal. I don't understand why you made it, whatever. Then you've got everybody by the balls with Anthony Davis. You knew that he was coming either in free agency and trade, and you just gave up way too much to get him in town, to get Davis in town. Clutch was running that. You had that done. You could have gave a little less. So now you way overpaid for him. So now you got LeBron and him together. Now you had Kuzma on the roster. You had some other pieces. You signed Montrezl Harrell. You got Pope. You got when they won the championship, they didn't have a perfect roster, but it wasn't like there wasn't a lot of ball dominant guys besides LeBron and AD. You had Rondo sort of knew how to navigate off the bench to sort of, to take the ball to LeBron James' hands at times and sort of distribute. And they won that way. And then they made the trade for Russ, which they didn't have to make, but they made because they have to put a quote unquote other superstar in town. But look, I don't think Russ is a number one guy anymore, in my opinion. And you're going to win a championship. I think he's a very good player. Don't get me wrong, but a bad fit there. And he's not going to carry you. He just his DNA with LeBron's DNA. You just can't. And then AD needs the ball. And then these other role players you got, Taylor Horton Tucker's an average player, a little bit above average. Kent Bazemore is sort of on the way out. Wayne Ellington, Avery Bradley. These guys, Carmelo's actually done decent for him. I mean, he does what he does. He comes in, he posts up, mid-range game, shoots some threes, but they just don't have enough. And the problem is they can't compete for a championship anymore. They're done with that because you can't move. The only move they can make is Anthony Davis because no one's giving you anything for Westbrook unless you're going to get John Wall. And that's just going to be Groundhog Day. You're not trading LeBron, obviously. And then AD you can trade, but what are you going to get? You're going to get Brown from Boston. You're going to get who are you going to get? Who's giving you that package of players for Anthony Davis? Yeah, you're going to get some good players. Don't get me wrong, but that's not going to help you win a championship. You'll probably get a little bit less than what you have in AD. That's going to be a tough one. But that whole Rambis thing and look. I've said this a million times. First of all, I said it 6 weeks ago that, Vogel's going to be on the hot seat and probably be out by All-Star break. And because he's the easiest guy to blame. The second easiest guy to blame is Westbrook, because of the fact that he's not playing great. He's not shooting it well. There's a million TikTok videos of him bricking 22 shots in a row. I get it, but it's not Vogel's fault. Coaches are almost irrelevant in this league. No offense to coaches, but it's your talent. Your talent is your talent. Your if you have a terrible coach, I get it. That could be bad for you. But all these coaches could do okay, especially with the talent that you have. They just don't have the talent. It's not this guy's fault. And there's no other coach in the roster that's going to coach this team. There's no other assistant coach that's going to be way better than Vogel.
Coach in the league, arguably.
Yeah.
Who's getting this? You could hire a Hall of Fame coach and maybe get an extra 5 wins. We spoke about this roster's the oldest roster in the league. They're the slowest. We spoke about this in stats.
Yeah.
Even the other decision, you bring in Dwight Howard and DeAndre Jordan together, they're exactly the same player.
Yeah.
Even that decision, what are you doing? Like we spoke about, if you've got a Dwight or a DeAndre, my second big would be a Miles Leonard type. He was available, all right, he's had the issues off the court, but it's a completely different, then you can put Miles in the corner with LeBron, and no one's leaving Miles. It spreads the floor for him, right? If you want to go a smaller lineup or a three-point shooting lineup. But even the Dwight DeAndre thing, you're like, you've signed two of the same players that are going to be coming off the bench now anyway, because they go small ball with Davis at the 5 when he's healthy. What are you doing? Like, it's just like, oh, that's a good big name for us. We'll sign him. Oh, that guy was good 3-4 years ago. With LeBron, it would be great. And you're just like, the way I equate Westbrook and LeBron together, I equate that to you having some cash as a team in free agency, and you sign Kyle Korver, JJ Redick, and Tony Snell, and you're like, hey, can one of you guys create for us? No,
yeah.
You've signed 3 feet set shooters. Like, that's what they do. You've done this with LeBron and Westbrook. You've signed 2 guys that are flirting with triple doubles every night. They get in the paint, they put pressure on the paint, but they need shooters around them. But they just don't complement each other. It's quite simple.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think when you're just addicted to getting names, Bogues, and you don't think about how they're going to impact your winning and your roster and your locker room and things like that, and you just want to get these names. You see it done in football all the time. Like the Arizona Cardinals in football, they sign a lot of these free agents and players that were Hall of Fame players, but they're 4 or 5 years past their prime, 3 years past their prime, and that's what they did here. Like, they're role players. Like being a GM is not the hardest thing in the world when you have cap room and you're in LA and you're signing a player or you're trading for a player. I think the hardest thing as a GM where you really earn your money is how do you fill that 7 spot, 8 spot, 9 spot, 10 spot, those role players that you bring in that are going to really complement your stars. Bringing in Rajon Rondo was great for them a couple years back, because he was the equalizer off the bench. Guys like that are really useful. And they have a couple of those guys that are decent, but it's just now the little moves that you made, the Zubac's, not trading Talen Horton Tucker. Why not keep Kuzma and Montrez?
Caruso.
Yeah. And giving away Caruso, all those things really come back. And look, it's easy to be Monday morning quarterback. I would not have made the Russell Westbrook trade. I would have definitely traded Horton Tucker for sure, because I don't know what people see in him besides being a hard playing kid that's good in transition, good cutter, good straight line driver that can't really make a shot, can't play make, and can't really be a guy that you can rely on to carry your team. And you can get Kyle Lowry for him. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't understand it. But look, I'm not running the team. And then the DeAndre Jordan plus Dwight Howard effect, especially with the game going so small, I don't understand what they're trying to do there. And now they're in trouble. But you know how it's going to be, Bogues. And most NBA organizations, the same thing. They're going to leak stuff out to the media. It's this person's fault, not this person's fault. Vogel's going to be the first one to go. And it's a shock. It's just stupid because no coach is going to make a difference. Look, first of all, LeBron James is LeBron James. He doesn't care who your coach is. He's going to do what he does. And, so any coach you get there are only a couple of coaches that could demand his respect. And that's just the way it is. So that's tough for Vogel, and he just probably does his thing. He's a very smart guy. I've been around him. I've known him, for 25 years. And the guy's really smart. He's a good coach. He's battled his way up. He's done it in Indiana. He didn't have a great time in Orlando coaching, but comes back with them. Yeah, who the fuck has? But yeah, that's it, Bogues. It's just a shit show.
I just hate to see it, bro. I just hate to see the leaks. Those leaks just kill me because it's just like, it's clear scapegoat. Like, he's coaching for his life in fucking January. Like, we bench Russ because he missed a scouting report. Like, come on, man. Like, you really, just the fact that someone on that assistant coaching bench leaked that to someone within PR of the Lakers to then leak it to a journalist. That's when you know that house of cards it's one joker away from falling the fuck down and absolutely going bad. Well, it kind of already has.
Both, you saw fucking Titanic, right? You saw grown ass men dressing up as pregnant women to get on those fucking lifeboats. That's what NBA assistants are when shit starts getting bad. They start fucking leaking. They got to save their job. They want to try to get the head job. There's a lot of shit that happens on staffs, man. I'll tell you what, watch your fucking wallet around those motherfuckers. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I just hate to see it. I think it lacks professionalism. But you're right. Everyone's, like we said, that ship's sinking. Everyone's trying to jump off with whatever bit of jewelry and cash they can and save themselves and hopefully get get re-signed by the buses and the Lakers or whatever it is. So hate to see it.
And plus, you're taking coaching advice from Kurt Rambis. He's like 35 and 125 as a head coach. Well, you might as well take nutrition advice from me.
Yeah, but what you said about the trade, that his wife's making trade calls, Jesus Christ, if that's pretty good source.
It's not what you know, it's who you know. Yeah, very good source. When you're a best friend with, again, these billionaires, they listen to everybody. They listen, especially their close people. And again, like, what does she know about running an NBA team? Not Bus, but but Rambis. It's crazy. Again, the Lakers arguably are probably the top 5 organization in pro sports. The most, everybody knows
in the
Lakers.
world, probably.
Yeah, in the world. Besides the Yankees, Real Madrid,
Barcelona,
the Dallas Cowboys, Barcelona, there aren't many that are more
iconic,
more popular than those guys. And to be run like this, and then everybody pointing fingers. Again, you got billionaires that would never run their real businesses like they run their NBA teams. And they would never have this hijinks going around. Like your CEO is getting fucking advice from their Starbucks barista, and trying to make. That's what they're doing.
It makes a mean latte.
That's what you're fucking doing.
It makes a mean latte.
No doubt.
Yeah, we'll watch this space. I'm enjoying it because I like seeing big markets go through all this. But it's just funny when the big markets go through this. It's even worse than a small market. You got to give credit to the Spurs and OKC that they're struggling right now. You don't see any of this from them. You don't see any of these leagues. They're much more professional with the way they run things. And the Lakers is showtime when it's good, and it is showtime when it's bad. So hopefully more content for the pod. Did you see you obviously saw it, but for everyone out there, an assistant coach. With the Nets, was it Vanderpool?
Yeah, Vanderpool. Yep.
Yeah, he put his hand out during live play. So someone swung the ball. For those of you who'll be on YouTube, if you want to look it up, someone swung the ball, went to throw it to Kyle Kuzma in the corner, and he was assistant coach standing. He put his arm out, actually touched the ball, and deflected it, and then it went off. They caught it off Kuzma, right? I believe, and. It's a huge. It was. I think there was about 4 minutes left, so it was a crucial possession. It wasn't late game, but it was a crucial possession. But that is money well spent. He got fined $10,000 by the league. Now, my question to you is, you're an assistant coach, you're a team owner, you're a head coach. Would you pay $10,000 to guarantee a win for yourself?
Oh, for sure you would.
Yeah,
for sure you would.
I can't believe it was only $10K. I think you got to go hard on that one because that you can really affect the. Imagine that was. The last 30 seconds of a game, you're down 2 and they swing it to, one of the best shooters in the league, Kyle Korver in the corner. He's about to catch it wide open because his defender fell down. Assistant coach deflects it. It goes out of bounds. And you win the game. You're like, here's your check for $10K. We'll take that any fucking day. Like, man, you spend that every game.
Bogues, I don't like this stuff in the NBA you see 4 coaches standing up. You got players standing up, going nuts on those sidelines. It might be fun for them. It might be the fans might sort of like it. I just think it's a complete shit show. You got too many people standing up and going nuts on that sideline. And then
dancing and all kinds of shit going on.
Yeah, look, I get it. Guys want to have fun. I get it. But you're trying to coach a game. It is a professional game. Right? Look, if you're going to let the players up, whatever, okay, I get it. But the assistant coaches, everyone's up coaching. They got 8 head coaches on the fucking sideline. You got, it's just, you got to maintain that professionalism on that bench. That is unprofessional, though. Look, it is a little funny, and it's awesome that they only cost them $10,000 to get a win. But it is unprofessional. You're an assistant coach. You're trying to be a head coach. You thought you got fucked out of being a head coach in Minnesota. And now you're an assistant coach, playing defense on the sideline. I think that the league at some point has to look at what's going on that sideline and be like, you know what, head coach, you could be up, training personnel. If you got to be up to 10 to a player, great. But you got to sit the fuck down. It's just getting a little too wild on that fucking sideline. But it was pretty entertaining. It was pretty fucking funny to see that. But on the other end, it's not
bad.
It's a bad look.
I don't think it's good. I think it's funny that it was only $10K. I think that's a $50 to $100K fine. I think it's a big one. Whether you find the team or the individual.
I would have done 10 games. easily, I would have done 10 games. You're trying to represent the NBA
it's integrity.
in the organization.
It's the integrity. It's the integrity of the game, which is bigger than the NBA and the team. It's the integrity and the purity of the game. People can then say that's cheating. It can affect betting. It can affect so many different things. The snowball effect. That's why I brought it up. I just think 10K is a slap on the wrist. And if I'm an assistant or I'm a head coach, I'm telling my assistants, hey, if you've got an opportunity to do that shit again and it costs us 10K and you win me the game, I'll pay your fine for you, because you're going to say, if I'm Frank Vogel right now, I'm like, hey,
oh yeah,
10K to save my job per game. Where do I sign? Where do I sign?
No doubt.
You know what I mean? So hopefully the NBA cleans that up. I'm sure they'll send out that standard memo to all the teams in the league that you got to count. They get to read through, and it's saying next time's going to be way more harder. You better not do this, blah, blah, blah. But we'll watch that space. Simmons for Harden's trending pro. Not sure how valid that is. There's been a billion Simmons trades. Morey just reportedly actually said that he's got deals from Sacramento that work on paper. I don't know why he would say that, but he just said that a couple of hours ago. So I just read that. But the big name one is Simmons for Harden. That was Kyrie early on before he started playing again, but now it's Harden. I don't see Brooklyn doing that, pro. Do you?
No, I don't. I think that any move that Philly GMs sort of tend to do this when you're all hot and bothered to get a player, like one player, like Daryl Morey's got a fixation on James Harden. I mean, he thinks he's one of the best offensive players, if not the best offensive player of all time. He propelled his own career based off Harden's play when he got him in Houston. He's going to want to get him. And I don't think, if I'm Brooklyn, I'm not fucking my team up right now to do that. Although I've heard that Harden, if he doesn't stay in Brooklyn, is going to weigh heavily to try to get to Philly. And I think any trade that's why Philly's trying to get rid of Tobias Harris's deal, because they're trying to clear money to try to get Harden in free agency. So they're really trying to, sort of clear as much money as they can and try to do anything possible to get him. So it doesn't surprise me that they're trying to make that deal. It's, in my opinion, it won't happen. I've heard more like Simmons to Indiana for Sabonis and, something else or whatever. So I don't see the Harden, because Brooklyn's on a mission to win a championship.
Do you think Brooklyn genuinely would move Harden? I mean, obviously the right deal's there, but do you think there's a panic there that we're going to lose him in free agency anyway? Is that why they're looking to move him, or is it just, do you think this is just all fluff?
I think there is a little bit of probably of unknown of what's going to happen in free agency with him. But I think that the only thing that they can do is, because if you trade him, you're not winning a championship. If you're going to get Simmons for him, you're not winning a championship. So the only thing you can do, Bogues, in my opinion, is win a championship and keep him, because then you can pay him whatever you want. So the only thing that they can do is just, let's put our heads down. Let's maybe this whole thing with Kyrie's going to sort of, work in our favor. They're going to let him play in the playoffs, fingers crossed on that. And let's get Durant healthy. Let's get Harden together. They've put all their chips or all their eggs in this basket with Harden, with Kyrie, Harden, and Durant. They got a couple of nice other players on their roster as well. But they can't just, they traded every pick. They traded all their assets away to get this thing done. They're not going to just say, you know what, we're going to take a step back. We get Simmons now. You don't know how healthy Durant's going to be long term. You don't know how healthy Irving's going to be long term. You're not going to, set the reset button, not total rebuild, but you're going to go back doing this. They're going to keep Harden, in my opinion. They're not going to make a move, and then they're going to try to see this thing through a championship and then figure it out in free agency to try to retain him. But they got to be all in to try to win a championship. I think this deal sets them back. Simmons is just too much of an unknown, and Harden, at least you know what you're going to get from Harden every night.
I agree. Yeah, I think for Brooklyn, I would make that deal. I mean, I think they need the shooting around KD and Kyrie, and Harden provides that. It's a genuine third option offensively. I think, maybe Brooklyn have some concerns defensively, but I think KD will buy in defensively once the big games come to town in the playoffs. Kyrie's not a fantastic defender, but he can be an average defender with buy-in. And Harden obviously is a poor defender, but we can get some buy-in for him. So I just don't see it from Brooklyn's point of view. So we'll continue to watch that space. But what are we? We're with the 23rd of January Australian time, 22nd where you are. That deadline's approaching for Ben Simmons, bro. There's not a whole lot of time left to move him, so it will be interesting to see if they don't move him. Ben Simmons, as people have come out on record saying he will absolutely not report to Philly under any circumstances. If there's a little bit of a budge in that, or if he just sits out and takes the toys out of the cot and doesn't play basketball again this season, I think that's a shit show of a situation. All right, moving on. Alex Caruso, Grayson Allen foul, pro. Give me your thoughts.
Oh, man. This fucking guy can't get out of harm's way. I'll tell you what, with these cheap shots. Grayson Allen's been one of those guys back from his Duke days, being a little bit nutty to, with all these cheap shots, taking guys' legs out and stuff. It was a hard foul. It was an unnecessary foul, but it was one of those things. It was in the heat of the game. It looked to me that he was just trying to make a play on the ball, and then he swiped down and grabbed him or whatever and sort of like propelled him down to the ground. I don't know, man. It's a hard foul, but the problem is it's like your reputation is like your credit rating. It never fucking goes away. And he does not have a good reputation. So you have to take the fact that his past, you can't really give this guy the benefit of the doubt. He's a cheap shot artist at heart. He's a hard player. He's done a lot in the last couple of years to sort of, earn his spot in the NBA and stay here and be a very good player. But I think it was a little bit of a dirty play, but it's funny. I read a tweet by a friend of mine, Mike Hall, who's a ex-NBA player, played overseas, and he said all those guys who applauded like McHale for like clothesline and Kurt Rambis in the 80s now is trying to call for this guy's head. I mean, you want to toughen the game up, hard fouls, and you're okay with it. But again, the guy broke his wrist. He's out a while.
That's the thing. It just got announced, not long ago. Credit to Caruso. I mean, he went a little hard in the press conference, but he would have known his wrist was broken or close to, and he was pretty tame. Most guys, knowing that you're probably going to be out a while, probably would have went much harder. That is why, the coach of the Bulls, Donovan, came out pretty hard. I think they knew at that point that we're losing this kid for a while, and Caruso with injury. But you took the words right out of my mouth. I think the reputation of Grayson Allen is what has done him in. If this was a guy that committed that foul that had not that reputation, I don't think we'd be talking about it as much. I really don't. I think it was a hard foul. I think he got ball at the start, then he got arm. The second motion swipe with his other hand is what made it look way worse than it was. And look, Caruso was going to fall either way. So he was in some trouble. There's a rule you don't want to get dunked on. So Grayson Allen was probably frustrated, didn't want to get dunked on, fouled hard. And I think his name is what's put this over the top. I really believe if this was Joe Ingles or, someone that's got pretty good sportsmanship about him for the most part, that's pretty well liked and isn't dirty, I don't think it would be as blatant. But yeah, he's got form, man. And that's form, like you said, credit rating. It plays into the penalties the NBA give you. I think the NBA is now saying they're going to look into it further, into the flagrant. It wouldn't surprise me if he gets a game or two for it and they just try to stamp it out and give him a warning, a hard warning with game suspension. Be like, dude, you've got form, man. You need to chill out. And like I said, if this wasn't Grayson Allen, I would be like, look, that's a hard foul. It's unfortunate. You can never judge the result of a foul per suspension, in my opinion. I don't like that rule because if I hard foul you and you fall down and you're tougher and everything's good and you get straight back up, and then someone else, I hard foul someone else the same way and then they break their arm, leg, whatever, it's kind of not fair to judge upon that. You got to judge upon the actions. But yeah, I think, look, Grayson Allen needs to wake up and needs to stop with it. Not only that, now he's gonna cop some cheap shots along the way, I think, Oh yeah, no doubt about it. It is what it is, Bogues, but fuck, like this guy can't get out of harm's way. It just, his reputation, it's just, he's always gonna be like, it's just always going to be fucking, you're always going to look to his past. It's just, he's the Harvey Weinstein of fucking cheap shots. You know what I'm saying? Wow, we might get some hate mail for that one. Nah, it's good. I love it. I love the hate mail. Bring it.
Oh, God, I got to go to hell for that one.
But it hurts the Bulls, man. Caruso's an integral part of their bench unit, one of their best defenders. And they're hitting a bit of that Warriors lull, they're struggling a little bit. They've lost some games as well. So they're still okay, obviously, but they're, it's that grinding time, and Caruso is a perfect player to have in these times of the dog days of the season, because he'll come off the bench with energy no matter what. So, dude,
you need him. Like, I'm a big Bulls fan. Like, I like what they did in the offseason. They've got Levine's out for a while with his knee. They got Ball, who's out for a while with his knee. Now you got him with a wrist. Vucevic and DeMar DeRozan, they're carrying it over there, and they're doing a good job. They got decent role players. Kobe White's back. But, you can't lose your starting point guard and your best scorer and now you're losing your best, like, second unit guy. Or starter too. I'm sorry, in Caruso, like your energy guy. Like that's, right now they're like first or second in the East, and this is going to take a big, for the next month or 6 weeks, they're going to be a little shorthanded with this stuff.
And, I mean, they're 4-6 in their last 10 pro, so they were clear number one, and now it's their rotations are out of whack. All you need is one COVID case for someone else, DeMar or someone, and you're in some shit. And they're 28 at 6 and 16. They're only a game and a half out of fourth and 2.5 games out of fifth. So they could, those guys could come back. They could potentially be 7, 8, 9 in the East. The East is very, very close from, 1 to 7, essentially. It's 3.5 games, Charlotte in 7 to first. So very, very close. We'll watch that space. But yeah, I mean, people forget this whole Grayson Allen thing and all that is what this does for the Bulls now. It's going to cause a bit of a problem with their rotations. Dame Lillard Pro has came out and said, or his people or the league has come out and said that if they're not pushing for the playoffs, he's not going to push his rehab to make it back on time. So I think he's out for the season pretty much. But they're 10 right now, bro. So maybe his PR leak or whoever leaked it should have said, planes don't count. It has to be a solid playoff spot. We're only talking 1-8. None of that 9-10 bullshit. And they're in clear 10. They've got a lock on 10 right now, bro. They're number 10 and they're 2 games ahead of the Sacramento Kings in 11. I have no faith in them moving up. New Orleans in 12, and then San Antonio, a 3, 2.5 games as well. So I don't see any of those teams below them. Maybe San Antonio still could get some wins together. They've been hot and cold. New Orleans, maybe. Sacramento, I have no confidence in. So I think they'll be a playing team. Portland will. It'd be interesting to see if Dame sticks by his word and if there is an asterisk that it has to be playoffs, not playing.
I think the leak should have clarified a little bit better. To be a good leak, you got to be a little bit more. You got to have a better clarification when you're trying to have a guy sit out, how they're going to sit out or not sit out. I agree with you. I think he's out for the year. I don't think they're not really going to compete. And I just don't see any dog in fighting them. I like Norman Powell, a couple other guys, but they don't really have it, in my opinion, to really push. Maybe McCollum back doing something. Simmons is playing well. But it's just they're circling the drain. It's going to happen. They're either going to sign, sign Dame and sign him long term, whatever. But like they're about 5 moves away, but from being really competitive. And I think that they're knocking on the door of just sort of like blowing the thing up. I don't know what they do. Like I don't know what they're going to do, but I don't see this guy coming back this year. And then they're going to have to really have some really, really serious, strong conversations in the next couple of months of what they're going to do going forward.
Yeah, I agree. And it's been a tough year for Portland. They've had injuries. They've had new coach and all that kind of stuff. So just a small tidbit, but we could have a new segment, Pro. We could call it the moron article of the week, something along those lines. Feedback from fans, let us know if you have a good name for basically an article that we see on the NBA beat or basketball beat that is just absolutely stupid and that probably shouldn't have even been printed or how it got the green light to be printed. So we'll just call it moron article of the week for today. But Pro, you sent me this. So our first moron journalist of the week is Lee Escobedo. He has written an article. Now, don't shoot the messenger, people. Don't shoot the messenger. But the headline, the Dallas Mavericks are consistently wide in a black league. Why? ? That is a fucking headline in this article, right? This guy goes back to actually give us percentages of 2000. In 2020, the NBA was 74.2% black and 16.9% white. Seems every decade the white NBA players become less relevant, yet one franchise often kept the dreams of mediocre white guys alive, the Dallas Mavericks. In 15 of the last 21 Mavs seasons, there were 3 or more white players on a 12-man active roster. In more than half of those 15 seasons, there were at least 4 players, not to mention at least 2 starting white players. The Mavericks, in a literal sense, do not look like the rest of the league. He then goes on to say, Mark Cuban supported Black Lives Matter, blah, 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 blah. Cites Steve Nash, Dirk Nowitzki, Luka Doncic. They didn't draft Trae Young because he's black? This is in the article, man. Bro, like the fact that this guy actually went back and would have had to do a stat muse on skin color for the last 20 seasons of the Mavs' existence. That in one thought is just mind-boggling to me. Like, there's a fair few white guys on that team. Let me research the last 20 years of how many white guys they had on the roster and give you a ratio percentage-wise. Pro, what the hell is going on, man? What is this?
First of all, did this guy write this fucking thing in crayon? And then secondly, was he fucking absent the day they taught writing in writing school. I mean, this is the most moronic fucking article. The Guardian should rename themselves as the Moronian, because this is the worst fucking article I've ever read in my fucking life about anything NBA related. It had no substance at all. This guy's trying to like make a name for himself, or, you know, trying to like start this thing up by saying the Mavs are racist without saying they're racist. Mark Cuban will give his left and right nut to win a championship. It doesn't matter if the players are white, black, red, green. Like, the moves he makes has nothing to do with anything except trying to win. Now, you can make bad moves for sure, but like the wording of some of this stuff a bit by saying like these white players were the centerpieces of these deals that went bad, and they weren't even all deals. They were like, you know, they weren't all trade. It's just like the guy was. It was the dumbest article I ever fucking read. I got dumber fucking reading it, and like, he should be embarrassed. Like, and who the fuck is his editor? Seriously, Mr. fucking Magoo? I don't know who the fuck the guy's editor was, but they got this article and said, this is going to be good to put on our fucking website. It was just, it had no fucking substance to it at all. And it was just like, they like taking white players, and
he even goes on to say not even good white players. He said in the article.
Yeah, like, it's just fucking stupid.
Not even good white players he's referenced, right? And you're just like, dude, like, what are you doing?
Does it take this guy 3 hours to watch 60 Minutes? I mean, how fucking bright are you to write a fucking article like this? It's obvious what you're trying to do. You're trying to like get it picked up, and then Mark Spears will pick it up, and then this guy will pick it up. But like, I'm glad that finally people have fucking brains in their heads and be like, come on, dude, seriously. This is what you're putting out there.
It is
this
the Guardian,
is what you're putting out there.
So it is the Guardian. We have to take it with a grain of salt. But like you said, the fact that this went down the line and actually got approved by an editor and a sub-editor, and then someone approved to print it. He then goes on in the article to actually quote US Census statistics about the Dallas's population with referred to skin color. Now, I assume this guy is going to be the beacon of social justice and anti-racism, and we're all against. I think he's the racist. I think the fact that you in your head saw an NBA team playing on TV, you in your head counted, oh shit, there's 3 white players on there at the court at the same time. Let me check how many white players are on this roster. You then would have went to their website, checked which guys are white, which guys are black. Then you've come up with a beautiful ratio percentage-wise of black to white. And then you've actually gone back and researched their last 20 years in the league and counted black versus white. Like, you would have fit in really well in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, Mr. Lee. So, Mr. Lee, whatever your name was, I don't even want to remember your name because it's just Lee Escobedo. I mean, it's just absolutely horrendous. And I will guarantee you this guy's for the cause, social justice, everyone's equal, and he's out there putting out this shit. So just absolutely mind-boggling.
I love that he took a census. I just took a census of moronic writers in the media, and it just went up by 1. So congratulations, you asshole.
So if you want to get angry, people, listeners, read that article. If you want to laugh, read that article. But that's what we're dealing with, the fact that I would argue that people will say, oh, why even bother bringing it up? I think we need to push back against this kind of shit because it should not be okay. And when people write this shit, yes, they should be no violence, no physical harm, but they should be almost bullied not to write this shit again, because that is just, it has no place in our society, in my opinion. I'm often right, I'm often wrong, but I saw that and I was like, I thought it was a parody when I first read it. I thought, is this The Onion? And then I saw it was The Guardian, and it was legit, pro. So anyhow, that's our bad rant. But if you want us to find the moron article of the week, or you want to send them through, feel free. You have our socials. We'd definitely love to see them. And I think it's pretty easy to find one, probably on a minute-to-minute basis these days, pro, especially when it comes to the NBA.
Yeah, this guy might be a repeat offender, so I wouldn't have this guy teaching kindergarten right now.
Maybe we'll get him on the pod, pro. He can better explain his well, shit. We only have 2 white guys on the pod though, pro. We might be in some trouble.
Yeah, absolutely.
Us with the 100% ratio.
Yeah, I'm prejudiced too. I'm prejudiced against moronic writers.
Yeah, exactly. All right, NBL, just a quick wrap here on this end, pro. Melbourne United are balling. They're at, I think, 7 straight wins at the moment. They are credit where it's due. I didn't have them in my top 4. I thought they were an import short. I thought Daly would take a while to adapt. I knew they'd win some games, but I didn't think they'd be this good this early. Well-oiled machine, playing very, very well. They have an import spot up their sleeve too, pro. I'm not sure if they'll be able to use it with all the coronavirus call-ups and deep rosters we're seeing in the NBA right now, but that's starting to slow down a little bit, so someone might pop up. But they do have a roster, an import in their pocket, which is the way they're playing, they're first in the NBL at the moment. It could really put them over the top. So they have every chance in the world of going back to back. They're playing well. Sydney Kings pro flashes. We just can't finish games. We a mirror image of a first quarter to fourth quarter last game at Brisbane. Played really good in the first quarter. Fourth quarter was the exact opposite. I think they were actually mirrored 31-15 quarter time score, and then they were 31-15 against us in the fourth. So we just we show flashes. We're struggling to put it all together. Have had some injuries. We can't make that an excuse, but we have had some injuries along the way. And as I said on the Q&A, it doesn't help when your best player gets thrown out in the first 6 minutes of a game with a quick double T from an official who just has no feel for a basketball game, pro. And I actually referenced to our GM, Chris Pongrass. I was watching the Denver versus, who was it against? Denver versus the Clippers. I don't know if you saw that game, pro, but Jokic took a shot, missed, got his own rebound. His defender fell over on the floor and then kind of hit Jokic as he put it back up. So it should have been an and one. And Jokic kind of half fell over him, put the ball in the basket, and he went straight at the ref, like abused the shit out of him, got a tee, and Malone had to run in and grab Jokic, and Jokic wanted to keep going at the referee. The referee was smart enough to know, I'm going to remove myself from this situation. I'm going to go to the scorer's bench and announce the foul, the technical foul. Removed himself, and by the time he came and turned back around, they'd calm Jokic down, and it was done, right? And I think that's a very, very good referee, right? Remove yourself from the situation. If Jokic then continues to follow you to the scorer's bench and abuses you and he's in your face, no problem, double technical foul. But you've just teed him up. You've probably made a bad call. You've just teed him up. Give him a 10-second grace period to let out a little bit more steam. Fuck, whatever you want to do. And then turn around again. And then if he's still going, by all means, you do what you got to do, right? And that was the clip that I said, hey, I think we should send this in. And I think it'd be a useful piece of learning for the NBL referees, because you don't want to see guys get two quick tees and thrown out in the first quarter. You pay good money to see the best players. Fans want to see the best go battle to battle. And that was just something that I just picked up on that was frustrating from a Sydney Kings point of view, pro.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like with referees, I think they got to do a better job at not being so emotional about these things, and unless it's really grossly disrespectful. I think, like you said, like that guy I didn't see the play, but from how you described it, he removed himself from it. He understood this guy's really mad. Let me just sort of do my thing here. If he's coming at me again, it's an easy tech. It's an easy second one. But like, remove yourself from it, communicate a little bit, and communicate with the player a little bit, have those conversations. That's why those old school refs back in the day were so much better than a lot of the refs today, because they talked to the player. They understood. They could carry on that conversation and communicate why they made the calls they made. But now they're just so quick to tee guys up and do all this. And obviously in your game, it was, I guess they had a little bit of that hijinks.
Yeah, you just got to just have a poise about you as a referee. You got to understand that I'm going to make a bad call as a referee. Players are going to make bad plays sometimes, and there's a balance, but you don't want to, I just don't think you can have a quick trigger on a double T. Like I said, if you get that first T, give them 10 seconds, move on with life. But anyway, that's the Sydney Kings. And then Adelaide, very deep roster at the moment. They're still struggling to find some form. They've had some coronavirus issues. They're in a state that has, I think, their 15-minute close contact rule in their state, pro.
Oh, wow.
So how I don't know what they've done in the States, but they've now said you're a close contact if you're 4 hours in the same room with a positive or some shit like that. Whereas I think this state is 15 minutes. So it's basically wherever you go, you're a close contact, and they're having a lot of players having to self-isolate for 7 days if they get caught up in an environment with a close contact. So that has caused them some issues. They've got a rookie head coach, but they have a very deep roster. So they've been struggling. So it'll be interesting to see if they get back on track. But that's all the NBL we have right now. It's good to have games back on TV, back with the coronavirus kind of case peak at the moment in Australia. It's just good to have games back on TV. But let's move on to stats and get this thing wrapped up so our good people can focus on going to work or whatever they're doing. I've got some good ones this week, pro. Did a lot of digging, a lot of hard work to find these ones, pro. But Devin Booker is shooting 62.5% in the clutch, pro. He's 45.5% from three, and the Suns are 15-3 in clutch games. Useful or useless?
Yeah, it's useful. I mean, the guy, I know when I was in Dallas, it seemed like every game at Dallas, this guy fucking torched us in the last minute, where he just would make every buzzer beater, close to buzzer beater. Yeah, it says a lot about him. He's got ice water in his veins. He's He's a really good player. And I think it's very useful. What do you think, Bogues?
Yeah, useful 100%. And then Chris Paul's up there as well on clutch points, a clutch plus minus, I think. So, yeah, but Devin Booker's, he's becoming that closer. He's bought in defensively. I love everything he's done. I mean, he's a star for their team, and I've enjoyed watching him play. So hopefully he can continue in that direction. Next one, the Bucks are 18-3 this season pro when their big three play. Useful or useless?
Very useful. I mean, I have Middleton on my multiple fantasy teams, and he's fucking me on many occasions with being out. So, but I think with those three guys playing, I think with Holiday and Greek Freak and Giannis and Middleton playing, they're really tough to stop because their role players are so good. They got so many good players that just know how to play. They're tough. The problem is when one, or multiple of those top three guys are out, it's really hard for those guys to compete. And let's not forget, they haven't had Lopez most of the season too. So, he's been out with injury. So it's, they've struggled. They struggled coming out of the gate. But when these guys play together, I think they're a different type of team. I mean, obviously they're an NBA championship team, and missing one, if not multiple players from that group really puts them in harm's way, especially how good the East is this year. I think it's a lot better than years past. So, I think it's harder for those guys to compete, at the level they want to. What do you think?
Yeah, it's useful. It just shows you have your full roster on the floor and you're a good team. You're going to win more games than not. And that's, their record's been up and down early on in the season. But you look at that stat when they're all healthy, they're big three, they're winning games. So health is very, very important. All right, Russell Westbrook has a higher field goal percentage this season than one very big name superstar pro. Do you know who that is?
No, I don't.
Steph Curry.
No shit.
So
no kidding.
See how crazy that is perception-wise? Yeah. Because, Russ has a bad rap. Look, Steph's not one of those guys that generally has those kind of years with poor shooting form constantly, right? But perception's beautiful, isn't it? I mean, you'd think Russell Westbrook, was responsible for nuking the world at times the way NBA fans carry on. But yeah, Steph Curry apparently, according to StatMuse, has a lower field goal percentage than Russ Westbrook. Useful or useless?
Obviously, it's useless, but it definitely, because I think obviously Westbrook's field goal percentage is because he's not a really good shooter and he's got bad shot selection. And I think obviously, Steph is the best shooter of all time with a very bad shot selection. And I think it sometimes, especially without Green and without Thompson, he's got to take a lot of tough shots, and he's had a lot of stinkers this year with shooting numbers. Now he'll still put up his points and he'll do his thing, but he's had some really bad shooting nights. But
43.3 for Russ and 42 for Steph.
Very shocking to hear that, though. You would think
it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Though? That's why I thought it was just. I was like, no way, that's right. But we trust StatMuse, we trust the boys there. They're very good people. And I was like, wow, it just tells you, the perception of no one's really talking about that with Steph because, like you said, it's different circumstances, but numbers are numbers. Everyone loves analytics and numbers and field goal percentage and this and that. But Russell Westbrook has a higher one than Steph. So I think it's useful just from a perception point of view with sometimes we hate on Russell a little bit too much. He's still not shooting that bad. Next one, Facundo Campazzo is minus 234 this season, pro. He has the worst plus minus on a 500 team in the league. The next worst is a minus 111 away from him. Useful or useless?
Pretty useful. I don't know. I'm not a big plus minus guy, but minus 234.
And they're over 500 as a team. Usually you see that on a team that's, Detroit or, OKC or New Orleans or something, but they're above 500, like pretty tough to do.
Fuck yeah, it's pretty tough. I mean,
at some point it's not the coach putting you in with bad lineups.
No, minus 234. I mean, I think that plus minus is completely overrated how we evaluate players, but I will say this, there are outliers. Minus 234 versus minus whatever that number was at second best, the second worst. That does tell you something that,
I'm not a big fan of plus minus neither. I think that you need a big sample size. Like you can't do it with guys that play spot minutes but I think, for starters that are playing 30 plus, it can have a little bit of a help. But if you're judging plus minus on, minus this, minus that for guys that are playing 10 minutes a game, that's pretty unfair in my opinion because there's so many variables that can go in. You could be playing with your star one night and then the next night you're playing,
coaches put the whole bench on because you're up 50, so it's just one of those things.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting stat, but I would say it's useful. I mean, it does tell you that, he has some issues, obviously, on some side of the ball that's really impacting the team in some type of way. So, I mean, I loved him in Europe. I mean, playing for Real Madrid, playing for,
it's fun to watch.
national. Oh, yeah. Like, I remember watching him hit half-court shots to the buzzer. Like, the guy, he's like a JJ Barea, and that's how he impacts the game in Europe. And he just attacks. And the NBA plays a little different. But I'm a big fan of the kid. The kid's got balls as big as coconuts. I mean, the guy's a really fun player to watch. But it's interesting though that's minus 234 versus minus 111. That's pretty eye opening.
Very much so. Last one, your Celtics, Pro, were leading by 11 points with 7 minutes left against the Portland Trail Blazers. They didn't score a basket the rest of the way. And Portland are the third worst defensive team in the NBA, Pro. Useful, useless.
It's useful. I mean, it just goes to show you. Now, any given night, you could have a bad night. I don't know if you could have a bad night with, not scoring a basket in 7 minutes, but it just goes to show you where Boston is. This team throughout the year, that they've got a big problem that they got to fix. And, it's not going to be one little thing that fixes it. It's not going to be a sign that you hang in your locker room. It's not going to be one player that you bring in. It's not going to be a different assistant coach that you hire. You got to look yourself in the mirror up and down, and it's a big problem. I think it's a very useful stat in this situation. If it's many other teams, if this was like Dallas or something like that, I would say it's useless. But the Celtics have been like this all year. More than this year, but yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's useful as far as Boston just so erratic, man. They could, like I said, they can beat earlier. They can beat someone that's really good and then lose to Portland. I mean, the eye-popping thing is Portland's not known as a defensive power in the NBA by any means, so to not be able to score 7 straight minutes is hard to do. If you look at it as like playing against a Phoenix or a Golden State with a really good defense, you're like, oh, I can understand that to an extent. But Portland just solidifies it. They got some issues there that they need to fix, as I've said numerous times in this pod. So I think it's useful. What do you got? Fact or fake news? Philly Day, is it?
Philly Day. I'm gonna start off it's going to be all Philadelphia. First off, does Joel Embiid have a legitimate chance for MVP? Just let me read you off his last, 10 games. 31-15-10, 31-5-4, 31-12-7, 31-8-6, 31-6-3, 25-13-6, 32-12-3, 32-8-1, 50-12-2, 40-13-6, averaging, in that, I believe in the regular season, he's averaging 29, 39 from the 3, averaging 10 rebounds, 4 assists.
He's up there.
Does he have a legitimate chance for MVP?
He has a legitimate chance. I think what hurts him is he missed some time early on. I think he's missed 2 bouts with coronavirus, I believe. He's played 34 games to this point, so he's missed a little bit of games. And I think Philly's in there. They're in the mix. They're 26-19 right now. So what's that, 45 games? So he's missed 11 games. They're in the mix. That's the important thing. They're in the top 6 right now in the East. They're 3 games away from first, as I mentioned earlier. They could easily make a surge here. A couple of teams fall out. The Bulls could potentially fall out, as we've said. I think he's a legitimate chance. I think he's top 3. I've got him at the moment. I've got Jokic up there and Giannis. I think Luka's floating in there somewhere, but Luka's missed some time. Steph was up there, but he's obviously fallen out the last season. And sorry, the other one I have is Kevin Durant. He'd be rounding out my top 4. So I think he's in the mix. I think it's a close year this year. I really do. I think it's closer than it has been in the last couple of seasons. I think if he stays healthy the rest of this season with those numbers of the last 10 games, I think he's probably top 2.
Yeah.
And they'll have a chance to get through, but there's just so many guys that are good. You can't. We've sung Jokic's praises. He doesn't get enough pub considering he won it last year. People just have forgotten about him. His numbers are even better than that. Giannis is starting to surge again, and KD's KD. But now KD's injuries
going to throw a spanner in the works. He falls out a little bit, right? He probably goes down to 4 or 5, somewhere there. So if Embiid stays healthy, I think I've got it out of Embiid, Giannis, and Jokic if they're all healthy. If KD can get back sooner than later and put up some big numbers again, he can sneak back in. But I have those as my top 3 at the moment.
Yeah, NBA International, baby. They must be happy as hell. I mean, they're like, every way you look at international players competing for an MVP, it's pretty special, man.
Yeah, and Luka's in there as well. So, probably not yet, but he's in the mix. He's in the 10. So, yeah, a lot of international players doing good things. What do you got? Are you fact or fake news on that?
I'm fact. I think he could win the MVP. I think he's got a legitimate chance just because he's new blood. Those guys are winning. If they could, what's going to fuck him is if they don't get a Simmons trade done. Because if they don't get a Simmons trade, they literally have this player sitting on the bench. They're not getting 1 second.
Max player, pro, not just a player. Like he's eating up a lot of your cap, and he's
huge
a franchise tag guy on your team. It's not like you're, if it was Tobias Harris, like really good second tier star, get it, but this is like one of your mainstays, man. Like, and he's still carrying this team to 26-19. That's impressive.
The people at Philadelphia on trade day should come with torches, and should come like the Frankenstein movies, and they should just storm their facility and say, "Look, you got to trade this guy, or something's got to happen." Something's got to happen. Probably made bad references with the whole, torch and storm thing.
But these days. Yeah.
I'm going to hell anyway. But I meant it on a Frankenstein movie, reference, not the other.
Not a KKK movie.
Oh, fuck. No. I got enough problems in my life. I don't need another one. But what I'm saying is, both they gotta move the guy because, look, they're playing really well without him, but they just can't beat teams consistently higher than them without it. And you're wasting another year of Embiid, of a healthy, dominating Embiid season. And at some point, Embiid's going to say, "Get me the fuck out of here."
Yeah, we said that at the start of the year. At what point does Embiid say, "Holy shit, fucking get me some help"? But I would love to see them pick up a piece and then get Brooklyn in the playoffs, because I think that's a series that, speaking on our Q&A about polar opposites, that's 2 teams that are polar opposite. You've got super small ball Nash, 3 scorers that can all handle the ball against a legit 7-1, 7-2 guy who will just put you in the basket. It's like, who does Brooklyn put on him, and then who do Philly put on those other guys? So I'd love to see that at some point in the playoffs. So hopefully that matchup works out with both of them healthy. I think it'd be, just from a chess perspective, one team goes big, one goes small. I'd love to see that, but we will watch this space.
Okay, second, Sixers will trade for James Harden. Now, we spoke on this before, but what are your thoughts on
fake news right now?
Will they trade?
I just don't see why Brooklyn would do that. I mean, I think the question is, will the Sixers do it? No-brainer. But I just don't see Brooklyn. I think that's fake news. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't know why you do that. If you're all in, if you're Brooklyn, like you said earlier, you're all in to try and win the chip, and you move him off that roster. I think Ben's helping him defensively. I don't think he's helping him offensively. So I'll fake news that one, bro.
Yeah, me too. The only way that they're going to trade you James Harden is if you trade an Embiid. They're not going to trade you Simmons. That's when you're not self-aware of what you really have on your roster and the real value of, Ben Simmons. No one's giving you James Harden, one of the top 10 players in the league, for Ben Simmons. And even on his best day, Ben Simmons isn't a top 10 player. So, they're not trading you that guy for that guy.
Did they absorb the Tobias Harris deal in that as well, Brooklyn? Or would it have to be some more throw-ins? Because I'm thinking out loud, would they then say, all right, if you take a bad contract that we think we have, which Tobias isn't the greatest contract, they'd have to throw in something else from Brooklyn. But I know Philly are looking at trying to move him possibly in a Simmons deal that's been reported as well.
It'll be really close if they threw Tobias's deal in with Simmons. Ben's like 30 million or so.
Yeah.
And then, Tobias is about 20. So now you're at 50. So now you're going to have to go, you could take on $62 million in salary, or you can take as low as $38 million in salary. I think you got to get plus minus 25% I'm almost positive. So you could definitely absorb it. They could do it. But in my opinion, like I said, they're going to deal Simmons because they need something now. They're not going to trade you Embiid. They're not going to take Simmons and Harris from you. They're not, in my opinion, it just doesn't make any sense. The move they're going to make is going to put Harris in the deal to dump his salary, to go after Harden in free agency and trying to build something around, I don't care if it's I think they're going to try to go with Sacramento to get Fox, Harrison Barnes, Fox, and something else for Simmons. And then they're going to turn around and try to do, if they can get off Tobias's deal, now you come back with Fox, you get Fox, you get Embiid. I'm not a huge Fox guy. I think he puts up numbers, but I don't think he's a winning player yet. He hasn't shown me that he can impact winning, but he is talent and he's young. So you get Fox, you'll have something else, maybe Buddy Hield, Harrison Barnes, a combination of that, Halliburton maybe. And then you try to do, if you get off Harris's deal, then you try to take James Harden in free agency. And, Daryl's smart. He'll renounce guys. He'll get off contracts. He'll do anything that he can to try to get the guy. He will not trade for him, but I think he'll try to pick him up in free agency.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll watch that. But I mean, maybe just to finish that off, maybe Brooklyn do say, shit, we're going to lose James next season, and we have a chance to get Ben and Tobias in a package, or whatever it is. Maybe they bulk, but I just don't see it. Like I don't think KD and Kyrie, well, not that Kyrie would have too much to say right now, but KD would that they'd want to keep their roster as is. I think they think they're tooled pretty well to win a chip. So next one.
Last but very much not least, do you think Doc Rivers will be coaching the 76ers next season? Fact or fake news?
I think fact. I mean, what he's got another year left on his deal, right? Did he do 4 year?
Yeah, I think he's got at least one, maybe if not two.
I think he's back. I think. Are you really going to get someone that's going to put you over the top right now? They've had a COVID interrupted season again. They're hot and cold. I mean, his press conference that you sent me wasn't too good when he got asked about if he lost them the game coaching wise, and then he straight away referenced Pop, which was interesting in itself. He said, "Would you ask Pop that question?" That was pretty pointed in a way, but I think he'll be there. I don't think who else are you going after unless they have someone shortlisted. We know Darryl likes to play a certain way though, so there probably could be some inklings that he might try to find one of those new analytics super small ball, even more threes than we shoot today guys, but I don't think so. I don't think you're getting much. I think Doc's a good coach, and I think he'll fake news, fact. He's going to be coaching the 76ers next season.
I say fake news, and I don't think they're going to get rid of him. I mean, Doc Rivers is one of the best coaches in the league in his own, doing his own thing, presence of players, respect from players, just sort of been through a lot of battles, won a championship. I think the Lakers are going to come after him strong.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's an LA guy. There aren't many guys that can coach and sort of like get the most out of LeBron James in the whole league. There aren't many guys that could do it. I don't care how smart you are, how many plays you can draw up. Doc Rivers is one of the best I've ever seen at being able to get and relate to players, get to players, and sort of like not back down to players. And I think that the Lakers are going to get rid of Vogel. You know that, regardless if he deserves it or not. I think they're going to go after Doc hard. I think he owns a place in Malibu. He's been in LA a long time with the Clippers. I think that to get a chance to coach LeBron James, West Coast, especially if this whole Ben Simmons thing doesn't work itself out, he might have a better chance of winning a championship with a healthy Philly team, but being in LA, they'll pay him whatever he wants. I think they're going to go after him hard. There aren't many coaches that they can get, and I think that Daryl Morey won't put up that much of a fight, even though I think he values Doc. But I think if Doc really wants to go, not that he wants to go right now, but I think in the offseason, depending on how this thing finishes out, I think that LA is going to offer him a shit ton of money. And they're going to just basically give him whatever he wants to stay and to go. And I think he's going to go, in my opinion. That's me.
You think they'll just come to an agreement or an opt-out with Philly? Or you think?
Yeah, I think that maybe you have to give him a second-round pick or something like that. But I think that, if he really wants to go, but at the end of the day, if he's like, fuck, I get to be in LA, I get to make, I don't know, $11 million a year, whatever it's going to be. They're going to give me this. I get to live in LA. I've been out there. I had a life out there for a long time. I think this is what I want to do.
He's got 3 years left, bro. He's got 3 years.
Yeah.
Just looked it up. 22, 23, 23, 24, 24, 25. And then he's a restricted, he's obviously a free agent in 25. So he's got 3 years after this season. So that'd be...
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Lakers go after him really tough and really hard. And to coach a team, like you said, it's one of the most popular franchises in pro sports. Being able to do that, go to LA, make a shitload of money. I don't know if you want to coach that shit show. Now, that's a different thing. But I think they're going to come after him hard and they're going to spend as much money. You can't go after what's on their bench in LA. You can't. Their assistants aren't good enough. Who's the guy that coached in Memphis there? What's the guy's name that said, take this for data? He was a Miami Heat assistant for a long time. My mind's going to shit.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Yep. So he ain't the answer. The Phil Handy's not the answer. There's no Mike Penworthy's not the answer. No offense to those guys, but they need somebody, not that's boys with the guy, boys at LeBron. They need somebody who's going to coach him and somebody who's going to have law and order there and because demand respect. And look, there are a lot of coaches in the league, and I think Frank Vogel demands your respect as far as what he knows. But as far as commanding a room, commanding a locker room, there might be two other guys just as good, if not better, than Doc Rivers in the whole league. And I think that they need that type of presence in the league, in that locker room, in that organization. Somebody who's going to not let this stuff get to him. I think that Doc Rivers is the guy. Now, look, it could be all bullshit. It could be, Philly could be like, fuck no, you got 4 years left. You're staying, blah, blah, blah. But if this thing ends badly, they don't trade Simmons, they don't do well in the playoffs, and Doc's like, you know what? These guys are offering me $12 million a year. Let me just go. And, I don't think they're going to put up a lot of a fight. Now, if Houston wanted him, then obviously I think Daryl would be different about it. But if the guy wants to go back to LA and if they don't go do well. Now, if they make the Eastern Conference Finals or the finals somehow, then maybe this doesn't do it. But if they lose in the first round or second round, things don't go well, they don't trade Simmons, they're dealing with that same old drama, I think he's gone, in my opinion.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll watch that space. A big call, though. I mean, like I said, three years left. So if you get that one right, pro, we're starting the new year off with a bang.
Well, shit. I mean, I can't be any worse than picking fucking playoff games. So might as well pick drama in the NBA. I've been okay at that, but I've been absolutely dreadful at picking playoff games.
We all struggle with that. It's a tough league to, as gamblers would know, it's a tough league to figure out. But that's episode 50. Send us some balloons and some presents, people out there. Really appreciate everyone's support throughout everything going on in the world, to tune in to two guys just talking shit about the NBA and the NBL and the world of basketball.
How about sending us a subscription to The Guardian?
Yeah, I tried to look up if I got at that guy in our post when we post the podcast, but surprisingly, he doesn't have any social media profiles. Shocker. He probably does, but it'll be a what is that standard picture they use for bots? That'll be him just abusing people. Yeah. But all good. Thanks everyone for tuning in. That's episode 50 wrapped up. Make sure you join us next week for our Q&As on Call In. We usually do them every Sunday morning Australian time or late morning, and Saturday night American time. Starting to get a little bit of a following, so the more questions the better. And we will catch you next week.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.